You're listening to the Multiverse Fan Cast, proud member of the Misfit Faction Media Network.
Be ready. All right then. On with the show.
Hello and welcome back to the Multiverse Fan Cast. This is Rob, your host. Don't forget you can take us on the go with Podbeam, Spotify, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, and any other listening stations. And if you don't know what those things are, just ask a middle or high schooler. They'll probably explain it to you. You can also check out our content on our website, themisfitfaction.com. And as I said, I'm Rob. And today we are together talking about a special little show called Loki. But first, let me introduce my co-host. First, on my left, I have the fabulous, wonderful, always bearded Paul. How are you today, Paul?
I was trying to figure out my lefts and my rights for a second. I'm good. I'm good. How are you today, Rob?
I'm doing really well. I'm excited to be here. And on my right, which means the only other person left in the room, is the newly shorn and beardless Ronnie. How are you, Ronnie?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm just great. So today we're going to start off talking about a little bit of news. We've had some good news in the past week. And Paul, you take Ronnie? Well, they're pointing at each other now. They don't know. Okay, so who wants to take
Phil? George? Henry? I thought there was only people on his left and his right.
Oh my god, I panicked.
So who wants? So first bit of news up is.
First bit of news is we had Titans season 3 trailer drop today. We got a look at Red Hood and Batman's retirement in it. Any thoughts on that, Paul, Rob?
Well, I'm the only one that's seen all of Titans thus far.
That is correct.
I am so excited.
Why?
Red Hood looks fantastic. Jason Todd's story because when they first said they were going to introduce Jason Todd, the initial reaction was, no, he's supposed to die, and then he was never part of the Titans. He stole the show, especially in season 2. His story in season 2 was really good, trying to get out of not only Batman's shadow, but now Dick Grayson, the original Robin's shadow. They also delved really deep into his psyche and how he's definitely a little bit more aggressive than Dick Grayson ever was. And his story is just really good. And I was afraid that for season 3, they were going to go too far from the comics and just have him become the Red Hood, because they kind of set it up at the end of season 2 that was a thing. But they actually show in this trailer, and just a mild spoiler if you haven't seen the trailer, they do show the Joker and the crowbar.
Oh wow!
At one point, and this is Titans too, so it will be.
So wait a minute, because we know that Jason Todd gets killed by the Joker with a crowbar. Does that mean this is the final season of Titans?
No,
he's going to be the Red Hood.
Jason Todd becomes the Red Hood.
Jason Todd. Okay, I don't know my Robin lore, which is why I said we shouldn't do Robin next week. I need some time to read and watch something. I've seen season 1 of Titans, and I really enjoyed it. I just haven't gotten around to
season 2 was a step up. And
which from something that I already thought was great. So
and then obviously Doom Patrol spun off of it too, and that's been a fantastic show.
That I've seen.
I only saw the first season. I started the second season. I just got sidetracked with so many
problem with
shows.
second season for Doom Patrol is they didn't get to finish it because COVID cut them off, and they didn't get to film their last episode.
Yeah, COVID. It's a lot of these shows. COVID is really taking. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm very happy to see all of our shows back on,
right.
But best example, and Ronnie and I were talking about this off air. We are still big fans of the Arrowverse, sans Oliver Queen, obviously, and
the Arrowless verse.
The Arrowless verse, and they wanted to do big crossovers this season with the newly created Justice League on the show, which they haven't even named yet. But obviously with COVID, they weren't able to do so. Nate did call it the Hall of Justice, though, in Legends of Tomorrow, because he went on a tirade about not getting a chair in the Hall of Justice. But but the best example was John Diggle came back for a 5-episode arc on every single Arrowverse show. But because of COVID, it's out of order. It's different points. It's very jarring. But it was nice to see John Diggle come back. And I think he even directed an episode of Legends.
All right. So season 3 Titans. When does that drop?
That's a great
very
question.
Beginning of August. I want to say
August 12th.
I want to say something along.
I think
those
it
lines,
is.
Yeah.
Okay.
So look for some sort of Titans retro.
Yeah,
maybe,
we'll be doing that soon
because they're going to do weekly. So there's going to be definitely like a weekly setup, much like a lot of these shows nowadays. So we'll probably do maybe some sort of pre-show of Titan season 1 and 2, because producer Melanie and I just watched it. She watched it for the first time. I got to do a rewatch with her, so that was a lot of fun. But and then we watched Batman Under the Red Hood, which is another great movie to watch beforehand. So keep an eye out for something along those lines. If not, maybe as some sort of, if Rob catches up, some sort of Robin retrospective, because Robin's an iconic character and he deserves a little bit of recognition.
All right, what else do we have on our list?
We also have Deadpool.
Yes,
in the MCU now.
This is big.
Which is probably
Explain that to us.
Biggest news we've had in quite some time, I feel like. So, what do you mean, meh?
I mean, meh, because it...
Well, first explain what it is before we get into commenting on it.
So, he came out, meaning Ryan Reynolds, a.k.a. Deadpool, came out with a video of him...
Trailer reaction.
Trailer reaction to...
Free Guy.
Free Guy, yes, thank you. Which Ryan Reynolds is in.
Which we should add is a 20th century property.
Yep.
Which is now owned by Disney.
Yes. And in this video, you get Korg.
I'm Korg.
I'm made of rocks.
I had a movement, but we didn't have enough posters, so no one showed up.
Except for my mom and her boyfriend,
and
who
I don't
hate.
like, and I hate him. And we should also add that not only was it a Deadpool, it was an R-rated Deadpool.
Yes.
That we saw.
Yep.
Who was cursing up a storm, which that's big news for us. So your issue with it?
It's a publicity thing for now. They even address at the very end how Deadpool can get into the MCU.
Yeah.
I have no doubts that they're going to have Deadpool in some way. Just unfortunately, Deadpool will only work in a Deadpool movie. Putting him into an Avengers movie, even if he just kind of looks off stage and like talks to like the audience and they're all just looking at him just talking to no one, I don't think the MCU is at that point. I think, don't get me wrong, if they want to do a Deadpool movie that does take place in the MCU, they're going to do it like they did Deadpool 2, where it's like, well, where are the other X-Men? I think they could have afforded one. And it just cuts to all of them and they're in the room and they're like...
And they had Cable and everything.
You know
they bring in some people.
I think they could get away with it. If you have Ronan in the MCU, why not Deadpool?
Which Ronan?
The Accuser.
No, I'm talking about Hawkeye Ronan.
Oh, Hawkeye Ronan?
No, there's two Ronans.
Why not?
There's Ronan and Ronin.
Okay, anyway.
I just wanted to mention.
No, I think the issue.
Well, I said it right because it's Ronin.
I think the issue that comes up is that Deadpool is a totally different tone than the rest of the MCU, and I don't think it just necessarily comes together. And I get that. I think if we do see Deadpool in an Avengers movie, it would be like as a cameo. You know, the way that Wolverine was a cameo in the
I can see it as a cameo, and I can also, unfortunately, if they decide to put Deadpool in a PG-13 Avengers movie, it's gonna piss off the Deadpool fans.
Yes, it will.
Because what they'll do is they will play it safe. If you guys listen to our Black Widow episode, I did kind of accuse Black Widow of playing it a little too safe. Right. They're gonna have Deadpool just be doing his thing and not talk to the camera, not curse, or even if he does curse, I could see them bleeping it out or finding ways to like Captain America language, like that kind of thing. So I don't know. I just don't think Deadpool. As much as I want Deadpool in the MCU, I want that. We're not going to see a rated R Marvel movie anytime soon. Like, I hate to say it. And the closest thing we ever got was the Daredevil Defender stuff.
Yeah.
Which is our highest rated episode. If you want to check that out on Podbean.
That's funny.
Other than Sin City, which is on YouTube.
Oh, yeah, Cincinnati. That's crazy. By the way, guys, we're on YouTube. All of our podcasts
we
go
should
on there.
mention.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so if you guys are of the mindset where you don't want to listen to a podcast on an app or anything like that.
And you'd rather look at a static picture of our logo for an hour and a half.
There's a sound bar.
Oh, yes.
There's a sound bar. But
all right, so we've got Deadpool and Korg. All right, so what else do we have on news?
We have a bunch of Emmy nominations for the entire comic book scene out there.
Well, so Disney Plus and HBO Max really ran away with the Emmys this year, which is surprising. Just a couple. We'll talk about. I'm going to go in order. I had the list.
I got it if you need it.
No, I have it.
Okay.
But we'll start with. What's B? No.
B?
Well, the highest number of...
Well, I got it. Hold on.
Okay.
Falcon and the Winter Soldier has got 5 awards. It got Outstanding Guest Actor in a Drama Series, which is for Don Cheadle, even though he's only in it for a couple of seconds.
3 minutes total, yes.
We also have to remember that, like, not to downplay anything about the Falcon and Winter Soldier or any of the shows, but COVID TV, slimmer pickings this year.
Maybe.
But, it was a great scene, or a great 2 scenes that he's in. But they also got Outstanding Sound Editing, for a comedy or
Yeah,
drama.
a lot of them were technical.
Special visual, stunt coordination, stunt performance.
That's all comic book movies get. Or the technical stuff.
A lot.
Right.
Of
well, except for don't forget Black Panther.
Well, yes,
which got a
except
Best
for Black
Picture
Panther,
nomination.
But that was an outlier at this point, which kind of sucks. But Doom Patrol also got nominated. Let's see, going through, we had WandaVision ran away with a lot of awards.
They got the second highest amount of nominations. They came away with 23 nominations. The highest was The Crown and The Mandalorian, which was exciting.
I got The Mandalorian here. You got also Lucifer pulling away one.
Real quick, just back to WandaVision, we should note that a lot of those were also for acting. We had, lead actor, lead actress, supporting actress. They also had outstanding anthology series. Like those are major award nominations.
Yeah.
Those aren't technical. So WandaVision was recognized for the entire package of acting and technical,
which is
nice.
awesome because like we've talked about it on a lot of our comic book episodes, especially the retro reviews, where comic book movies especially have not been getting a lot of the recognition they deserve. I'm curious to see what the awards would look like if like Daredevil was coming out now or something like that, because there's a much bigger understanding that these are valid forms of entertainment and valid forms of performance. Like especially Elizabeth Olsen killed it in WandaVision.
Catherine Hahn, Paul Bettany, and all three of them were recognized with nominations.
Like, don't get me wrong, I love Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but we didn't watch it for the acting.
No.
Even like when Sam gives his heartfelt speech at the end, it's still like, okay, Sam.
Yeah,
but like
just lame.
But it was soapboxy and corny.
It was bad.
It came from the right place, and but like you get Steve Rogers.
Show don't tell.
Well, also Steve Rogers was very good at his speeches were very short and to the point, and just
Short
very
and
like
sweet.
This is how it is, and this is what we're doing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, for Sam's, it felt more of an argument.
Yeah. We had The Boys.
The Boys also
Got 5 nominations,
which is awesome.
Yes.
I know Ronnie just started watching The Boys. Rob, have you seen any of it?
I've seen all of them.
You've seen all of it,
actually,
right?
and I'm about to rewatch them because now Lauren wants to watch them.
So I think maybe
That's gonna be an experience.
Oh yeah, I watched all of season 1 and just the first episode of season 2, and Jacqueline's been watching like here and there with me or whatever. And it's funny, we're watching in some scenes she turns away or like clenches or whatever.
Yeah,
and
it goes
like,
to some dark places.
Oh yeah.
Well, you know what's even funnier? The Boys season 1, it was more the violence aspect.
Yeah.
A little bit of the sexual assault type aspect, but it's a very interesting show, and it's grown, and it's really kind of taken the media by storm.
Yeah.
Here's the one thing that I'm waiting for when I'm watching it with Lauren. Not the violence, not the sex or anything. Lauren is very badly afraid of images of whales.
Really?
Yes. She freaks out when she sees a whale. And it comes from, we think we know why. It comes from when she was a little girl, she went to the Museum of Natural History, and that giant whale that's hanging from the ceiling freaked her the hell out, and she's never recovered. Like anytime like whale images comes up, she's like, get rid of it. So I can't wait to see what happens, because
right
in
there.
The Boys, that one episode with the whale.
At least she's not too upset by dolphins. But anyway, you haven't gotten there yet, Ronnie.
No, wait. Where
on a side note,
the deep
Cobra,
try saving the dolphin.
Cobra Kai got 4 nominations, which we're all very excited about here. What else got nominations?
I think that was really it for the comic book shows.
I think
Lovecraft Country is another big one. It's nice. It's nice to see HBO Max running away with a lot of awards, because they are a newer streaming service. So it's nice that obviously Disney Plus really kind of ran away with it. Yeah. But to see some of these other smaller, obviously HBO Max is not a small streaming service,
but in comparison, it's small because it's not that. It's a brand. It's not brand new, but it's
newer.
A lot newer.
It's only about a year and a half old.
What, Disney Plus?
No.
HBO.
Max.
Yes, I think it's actually a year old, like in
just
this
about,
week or
'cause
something like that.
I remember I got it when it first came out because all the DC Universe shows were moving over to it. But so.
All right. So what else? Oh, and wait, one more. We have 4 nominations for The Umbrella Academy.
Oh yes.
Yes.
Yeah, that's another show I'm looking forward to. We haven't heard anything about.
No.
Have you guys watched?
Oh yeah.
Oh okay.
No, I've seen
I watched.
I think I've seen
just
the whole show twice.
First season, I think I saw.
First season is very good. Second season is excellent.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah. Second season.
All right. What else we have in news? What If?
What If.
The What If
That's
trailer
our-
just got released.
Yep.
So
And apparently it's going to have some implications. It's going to affect some events in Phase 4 as well.
Somehow, we don't know.
Somehow,
Yeah.
some way. Who knows? But it'll be interesting to see.
yeah, some of
And
them.
that is 10 episodes, I believe, and that comes out August 11th.
Yes. So August is gonna be a fun month, mostly with
Yeah.
television.
Yeah.
As far as superhero movies go, really the next and only one we have is Suicide Squad,
Yep.
Which is coming up soon.
coming up soon.
Yeah.
But we'll probably do what we did for Loki and WandaVision and Falcon and Winter Soldier, where we do one big episode at the end instead of a bunch of little episodes.
Yeah.
We also have Stargirl is coming out. I don't know. I think I'm the only one in here that's actually watched Stargirl.
No.
It's fantastic.
I like Luke Wilson, so.
I was shocked how good it was. It was so good that not only did it survive DC Universe shutting down and actually got put onto the CW, but also it is in continuity with the Crisis on Infinite Earth stuff. It's Earth 2, and Jay Garrick will make
Interesting.
his cameo on that,
All right.
which I'm really
That's
excited
awesome.
for. But I think that's pretty much it.
All right.
Yeah,
That wraps up our news portion of, and we will get into Loki right after this commercial break.
Today's episode is brought to you by Raise Energy Drinks from Rep Sports. Whether you're trying to crush your afternoon workout or just need a little extra pick-me-up, Raise Energy is just the boost that you're going to need. So if you go to repsports.com and any product that you order, enter the code MISFIT89 at checkout to receive 15% off. Anything that you guys buy from that store helps our network grow, and we fully appreciate everything you guys do. That's MISFIT89 at checkout, repsports.com.
And we're back with the Multiverse Fan Cast. And today we're talking about Loki. Loki, the show that is the third of the Disney Plus shows and was actually scheduled as the third of the Disney Plus shows. Just wrapped itself up with a 6-episode series, and it is the very first Marvel Studios villain-centric project. They have not had a villain property go first. It's never been centered around a villain. They're all trying to distract me with their shenanigans.
I'm doing production stuff behind the scenes. I haven't done a sneak peek Sunday in quite some time.
So it is their first villain-centric project, and it was originally we saw that, and when we originally heard that this was announced, we thought it was going to be sort of like a Forrest Gump Loki, because this is the Loki from the 2012 film The Avengers. This is not the Loki that we've come to know, and we'll get into that in a little bit. And we thought it was going to be, and they said this, that it was originally meant to be Loki popping up in different points of history and affecting it and having an influence on different things. And you kind of see that a little bit in this show where he comes in as D.B. Cooper. There's another scene where he pops in and has an influence, and I forget off the top. Yes, no, there is.
Nope.
It was in...
Nope.
I'll remember it as we go along. But yes, it was Michael Waldron is the showrunner, and he was brought in to handle it because of a lot of his work with Rick and Morty. Are we Rick and Morty fans in here? No?
Yes, I'm a fan. I haven't watched too much of it, but I've watched a good amount of it where I do enjoy the show.
Okay, all right. I think I've seen 3 seasons of it.
Okay.
I haven't seen the last 2.
I saw the Pringles commercial with Rick and Morty.
All right, so
you
you know nothing.
nothing.
I know of it, and I know a little bit about it, but
You know nothing, Jon Snow. All right, so
I'll just go watch Emmy-nominated Robot Chicken.
Okay.
That was on the list.
But it came out on June 9th, 2021. So now let's talk a little bit about Loki now that we've wrapped itself up. So before we get into that, let's talk about the evolution of the character Loki. He has appeared in... The first film he appeared in was, of course, Thor. Then
With his shortest haircut.
Was it really?
It was his shortest hair, yes.
Okay. And I will say, I think we can also agree to this. It was his most restrained performance too.
Yeah,
where he's actually very Shakespearean in it.
Well, that was the whole movie.
Yeah, well, because it was directed by Kenneth Branagh.
But it was
Mr.
also
Shakespeare
at a
himself.
point where the Marvel movies tried to almost each have its own genre.
Mm-hmm.
Like Captain America: The First Avenger was like its World War II thriller, and Iron Man was like its sci-fi type movie. Thor was supposed to be its I don't know. Is godlike
it's
own
sort of
genre?
like a almost like a Shakespearean tragedy.
Yeah. And you can definitely see it was before Marvel found their actual flavor.
Yeah.
And as much as I like to tease it, Marvel does have a very, and we've all discussed it on the show. Marvel has their style, their cinematic look that they want to go for, and also kind of how their genre. Marvel is its own genre at this point. Like that's why people give DC movies flack when they try and be a little more Marvel, and vice versa. Like it does happen.
Yeah.
If you guys listen to our review of Black Widow, which Rob was not on, he was actually on our Cinematic Adventures review. Ronnie brought up the great point that the beginning of Black Widow had a little bit of a DC feel to it.
Yes.
Yeah. So
right.
that's just the way it is now in these days.
Okay. So
they're good comparison points.
All right. Yeah. So he's been in Thor.
Yeah.
He was in the Avengers.
Yes.
He was in Thor: The Dark World.
Yep.
And he was in Thor: Ragnarok. And that's it. Well, and then he was in Avengers in...
He was in
Infinity
War.
Yes.
for 4 minutes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's when
he got
died.
an Emmy for Best Guest Actor.
Just like Don Cheadle. So let me ask you guys, out of those 5 movies, which one do you think best encapsulates the character of
I
Loki?
think we're all going to say Thor Ragnarok, but that,
You guys.
I'm going to say Thor Ragnarok.
Why?
Thor Ragnarok was the perfect example of getting the trickster god who does still have a conscience and a soul, who still loves his brother, still cares about his brother, but also like people tend to forget that him and his brother were about to kill each other before Hela showed up, and then suddenly it was the common enemy. But it was definitely the best encapsulation of just everything that made Loki a great character. And I'm not a Loki, like I'll be honest right off the bat. I am not a Loki fanatic. He's got quite a following, and part of that is part of that's Tom Hiddleston. Like when Tom Hiddleston showed up at Comic-Con in full Loki getup, and he got up on stage.
Check that out on YouTube.
Don't get me wrong, like that was a great moment. Just like when Andrew Garfield came in and he spoke as like a guest, and then it turned out that it was Andrew Garfield, just as Spider-Man. Don't get me wrong, like Tom Hiddleston's great. I really enjoy the work he's done. Even like Kong Skull Island, I was like, oh, it's Tom Hiddleston. I really do enjoy him, and I've seen a lot of his other work. Loki was never one of those characters that caught me though. I think after Avengers, especially Thor: The Dark World, Thor: The Dark World, I think, just is a bad movie. But for me, Thor Ragnarok is really when I was like, okay, you know what? I like Loki when he's interacting with this Thor. Like this Thor, this Loki together is like the perfect combination of the two of them. Yeah. I also think that Loki's powers have been very widely varied in this universe. Okay. Like to not even be able to put up a fight against Doctor Strange, like at all. I thought that was always a little interesting.
All right, so you going with Ragnarok, Ronnie?
Are we including the show?
No.
Okay.
At this point,
then Ragnarok. I'll agree. I think it's Hiddleston's best job, acting job as Loki. Other than the show. But I kind of agree with Paul. You get to see him in different light, and I do love the scene on Asgard in the beginning where the play's going on and everything, and like where he's Odin, he's got it's showing like he can even trick like the Odin's soldiers and everybody into thinking that it's Odin there and everything. I don't know, it was just, and then just seeing him throughout the movie too, even when they go to I'm drawing a blank. Where do they go to?
Sakaar.
Sakaar, thank you. Yes. I think him on Sakaar is great. Okay. I think
there is nothing more Loki than Loki playing Odin, making a play about him being the hero.
Yeah.
Okay. I am going to be a little controversial.
Say the Dark World. I dare you to say
First
the Dark
of all,
World.
I will say that I first noticed Tom Hiddleston. I might win on this one. I first saw him on a show called Wallander, which is about it's a television show centered on a soul-searching cop. It came out in 2008. I think it was 2008, and it starred Kenneth Branagh, and I saw it because I was a big Kenneth Branagh fan.
I am too. I do enjoy his work.
Yeah, being an English teacher, he is like a god to me. So
he was also a great choice to direct Thor.
Yeah,
I just think he didn't have the right script.
So I am going to be controversial, and I'm actually going to say The Dark World. and here's why. And I'm not saying you guys are wrong.
It's weird. This is Rob's last episode on the show. Nobody told
I'm not
me.
saying.
To be honest with you, Loki's like the only bright spot in Dark World.
Well, I'm not going to say that you guys are wrong, but you're wrong. Ragnarok, I feel too often Loki is the butt of the joke. And he's played solely for that. And I want to cite, when he's falling and he, for Doctor Strange for 30 minutes.
We all fell for Doctor Strange.
When he is being thrown around by what's the trick that he and Thor play?
Get help.
Get help.
Yeah, Get Help.
Like, I don't want to play Get Help. And I think too often we're laughing at Loki. And I don't really feel like Loki is the butt of the joke. And what I love so much about, although I do not like Dark World, what I do like about him is that you see the tortured Loki there, the one who doesn't really know. Like he'll play different sides based on like who's winning at the time. Mm-hmm. You see sort of his love for his mother and the betrayal that he's had from his father Odin, which you also see in Thor too. So I love seeing
his original daddy.
Yeah, I love seeing the right because he's a product of the Frost Giants.
Yes,
and I love seeing more of a tortured Loki. I think that's the true character, which is why I love seeing so much of him being tortured mentally in this show as well. The reason I didn't pick the Avengers as pure Loki is because I think
that's not pure Loki.
It's not. That's just maniacal, murderous.
He's
Loki.
also working for someone.
Yeah.
But I will say, Thor: The Dark World. I'm gonna
backtrack a little.
No, I'm not gonna backtrack.
Okay.
I am gonna say that Thor: The Dark World and Thor: Ragnarok have two of my favorite Loki scenes of all time. Mm-hmm. The first is in Thor: The Dark World when Thor goes down to ask him for help. And he's got the illusion up about, oh, I'm fine, everything's great, and then he finally drops it, and that room's destroyed. I was like, wow, that's a powerful character moment.
Yeah.
And then the second one, and I don't know if you guys remember the scene off the top of your head. It's right after him and Valkyrie both are like, well, I'm going to catch him in 20 minutes. I'm going to catch him in 10 minutes. And the Grandmaster's like, yeah. There's a scene where it's right before they do the flashback of the Valkyries, where Loki and Valkyrie actually have a physical altercation, and Loki holds his own.
Yeah.
Loki is he's not supposed to be a fighter, and that's part of him, but he can fight.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He'd rather use trickery, and he'd rather, like, even against the Frost Giants, he would do illusions and stuff like that. But I love that scene because it shows his physical capabilities, because he is a god. And obviously we love the puny god scene, and then when they reverse it in Thor Ragnarok's always fun.
It's like,
but those two scenes are both very powerful of his character and not just his ability.
All right, very good. All right, so now let's get into the show of Loki. So let's just have some general overall comments. Ronnie, what did you think of Loki?
It was 1,000 times better than I thought it was going to be.
Ooh, okay. We've got dissension.
I thought this was going to be number 3 on my list
out of
the Marvel
Disney
shows. Out of the 3 shows, it is not. I honestly thought going in, I was going to think the show was okay. I wasn't expecting everything that we got, especially with the big drop at the end in the finale.
And we should say we are going full spoilers at this point, so we encourage you, if you haven't yet seen all 6 episodes, please do so right away.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead.
So now with that warning, with the drop of King the Conqueror, I was surprised.
What does he call himself? He who remains. That's it.
Yes. I like I said, it was. And the cast was great, and we talked about Emmy nominees before.
Yeah, which Loki was not eligible this year. It'll be up next year.
If he, meaning Tom Hiddleston, is not nominated for Best Actor, I will go to wherever they do these nominations, and I will.
As long as Don Cheadle doesn't steal it from him.
Yeah, exactly.
All right,
because I think that. This is the best Loki we've ever seen.
Paul, you seem to be not in agreement here.
For me, this was the Iron Man 2 of the shows.
Oh my gosh.
Was there not enough smashing?
There's not enough. No.
Timmy, that's for you.
I watched when I first saw the trailer. So again, I'm saying I am not.
We should also just preface this by saying that currently on IMDb it is sitting at 8.8, which makes it one of the highest rated television shows on IMDb. Go.
That's fine. Again, I never go with critics, and also
That's not critics.
you know it's funny because IMDb, if I were to make a profile right now, I could leave a 2-star review.
Yes.
So again, it's like Wikipedia. The information's there, but it may not be how everybody feels. Mm-hmm. For me, again, and this is not a slight against Loki. I am not I enjoy Loki. I think he's a side character that caught so much attention, and I don't want to make the comparison, but it's the best one I could do. Like the Minions.
Okay, I understand that.
People don't remember as much about Despicable Me and Gru and the girls and the main characters. They remember the Minions. Mm-hmm. Or Puss in Boots was another good example. Ewoks, not so much. They were there to sell toys. But for me, I enjoyed Loki, but also I think we talked about it in our Avengers review when we talked about Endgame and Infinity War. We talked about Loki and how his sacrifice at the beginning of Infinity War is still one of the most powerful MCU moments that we've ever seen, and one of the biggest character arcs over the course of 4 movies. Like characters that have been in the movies. You know, if you listen to our Black Widow episode, she's been in 20 plus movies, and I would say Loki had a better character arc in 4.
Yeah.
So for me, I was really happy with how Loki ended as almost a pseudo
Infinity War.
As almost a pseudo Avenger, yeah.
Okay.
Like he was the one that says we have a Hulk, and he tried to kill Thanos himself. Having said that, I walked into the show and I wanted to keep an open mind, but I think part of me was already going, he had his story. It was great. I really enjoyed it. I don't want this. Then the trailer comes out, and the trailer misled us in what we were going to see. My initial thought was I was going to see all these different time splits that they were going to have to fix. Mm-hmm. But instead they introduced the TVA that literally puts a little device down and fixes everything instantly. Then episode 2, I think it was, 3 rolls around, and it ends with all these time branches being split. And I was like, okay, this is what I wanted to see. I wanted to see more of like the DB Cooper stuff. They really sold the DB Cooper stuff. Like it was going to be a show of all these misadventures of alternate Lokis. It wasn't until episode 4 that we even started to see any variants besides Sylvie, who I really liked as a character, but I just this show felt like setup.
Okay.
It is setting up the Multiverse of Madness. It is setting up Ant-Man,
Spider-Man.
I don't know about Spider-Man. I don't know. There's not enough details about Spider-Man because everybody's always assuming that it's going to be
multiple Spider-Man.
Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield. They're going to do Into the Spider-Verse. I'm like, until we see that.
Right now, the rumors are that the 3 Spider-Men will come in midway through the movie and will have equal time.
Which is, again, all rumors.
Right.
Which I don't want to... They've been talking about having these cameos for years now. And, like, even look at Black Widow. Everybody said Tony Stark was going to be in Black Widow. He's listed in the credits on, like, every website.
Yeah.
He wasn't in it. So until
deleted scenes.
Deleted scenes. If they deleted
Director's cut.
So for me, I enjoyed Loki. I will never rewatch it. But at the same time, I'm excited for season 2. Don't get me wrong, but it was a lot of setup, and we saw an emotional journey that we've already seen.
All right, I will say that out of the 3 series, I loved this one the most, and I will say that I thought it was the most consistent of the 3. WandaVision, I felt started off very strong, continued strong, and then kind of fizzled a little bit towards the end. It was also derivative of various television shows and how it was inspired by them, which not a bad thing, just it's not a unique thing.
Yeah.
It's coming off of those shows. Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I thought, started off very strong. I loved the John Walker stuff, and then I thought it fell completely apart towards the end. This one set a high bar, kept that high bar, and gave us everything that it said it was going to give. Now, I understand the misleading in the beginning and everything. I can understand that. There was a lot more talking in these 6 episodes than I was anticipating. And once you had that mindset of, I'm okay, this is what it's going to be like, then it was okay when it happened. Like, I will say the 6th episode was a lot of talking too, and I was okay with that because I knew what the rest of the show had been like. I thought it was a beautiful character arc. And I understand we already saw a character arc with the other one. However, I didn't feel like we had the emotional character arc. What are you doing?
It's my computer just going through its motions. Just please go.
I felt like there was a character arc with the other Loki, but it was more of something that was developed through experience, whereas this one was more developed through soul-searching and internalization, where he looked at himself, he looked at his own feelings, his own beliefs, and he reevaluated himself. There was a tremendous amount of personal reflection in this, and I really feel like it was a more authentic growth for the character than in the other ones, right? Whereas I don't feel like the other Loki, and we should say, that other Loki is a Loki that existed all the way up to 19, I guess.
19.
Whereas this is a Loki from 2012 that time jumped. So this is the murderous trickster Loki from the Avengers, and I felt that his arc was authentic. I loved seeing him go through this. And I thought the action was tremendous. I thought the relationships were strong. Acting all around was really, really fantastic. And I this is a show I could watch again. Like, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I could watch episodes again. I don't think I could watch the whole thing again. WandaVision, I don't think I will ever rewatch again because I feel like I got it on the first time. Whereas I have to say, with Loki, I would rewatch, because I watch, because I write the reviews for the website, I rewatch every episode. I watch every episode twice, and each time it grew in depth and appreciation when I watched it. Every single episode.
Yeah.
All right, so that puts out our initial ideas there. So let's go through some of the cast members. So let me ask this question instead of going through all the cast members. Who do you feel are some of our standouts on the cast? In terms of, let's stick first with leads. We've got, Sylvie, we've got Mobius, we have...
Loki. Do you want to each go around and just say something?
Go ahead, Paul.
So I'll start. Owen Wilson as Mobius was a scene stealer for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest.
Really, guys, come on.
I know, right?
Yeah.
I'm not the biggest Owen Wilson
I
fan.
just want to sit here and have my jet ski and stuff.
So Owen Wilson, after Wedding Crashers, kind of went through a renaissance where he was in everything, and he's very known for playing the same type of character.
What do you mean?
I know, right? But
his
for
broken
me,
nose.
yeah, with his broken nose, Owen Wilson. There's nothing funnier or nothing better for me in a show about Loki to have a foil for Loki.
Yes.
One that he sees through his crap. And one of the best examples of it is when Loki's in the circus, like that circus tent or the medieval times tent.
Yeah.
And he goes through this entire elaborate thing of this is what I would blah, 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 blah. And at the end, Mobius is like,
he's lying.
You're such a liar.
You're such a liar, man.
But at the same time, Mobius turned into their friendship was well developed. They have great chemistry, the two of them. Their back and forth really worked for me. And then Mobius is also the one who's like, maybe Loki is telling the truth. Maybe there is more to this. And then when he discovers it, the only thing better would have been if he drove up in Lightning McQueen to pick up. This is one of my variants.
Ka-chow. Check cars.
Yeah, but
I hate cars.
I hate cars too.
I love it.
But it's such a
love
bad
it.
movie.
The first one I love. The other,
I love the first one just because of its. Timmy loved it when he was little, but
no.
second and third one are just so bad.
Going back to it, Owen Wilson really, like, every scene that he was in, I really enjoyed. Him and Loki just had a great dynamic together, and I really hope he's back for season 2.
Yeah, I think we're just also glad that he's not dead. Because there was a time where we're like, no!
Well, they pruned him first, and that was before we knew anything.
We thought he was dead.
Yep.
And I remember my producer Melanie and I were watching him, we're like, oh, geez. And then, obviously then Loki got pruned, and we're like, they got 2 more episodes, we're good.
Yeah. I know. All right, Ronnie.
I mean, Paul stole mine. I was gonna say Owen Wilson because I already said my thoughts on Hiddleston, but if I had to choose,
You can also there's also Renslayer too. Don't forget her.
I was not a fan.
I oddly liked her.
Really?
Why?
There is something.
I'm not disagreeing. I'm just wanting to hear your reasoning.
I like. She's obviously a company woman. She's been with them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she worked her way up the ranks, and obviously she's a big reason why the show's even happening. I like the actress, and I like that. At first, I thought that she was going to just be. She's the antagonist of this show. He Who Remains is not an antagonist of the show. He's just the puppeteer. But and then at the end when she's, because you could see her and Mobius have a very good connection. They're very close friends. But she's the character. Every Marvel property has to have that character that just sticks to their convictions and will not be swayed. Captain America is a great example of having that altruistic side to him. She believes that what she's doing was right, and even worse, technically she wasn't wrong. At the end of this, we see that the killing of He Who Remains is going to create this giant multiverse. Like, and even Loki, like, he tries to stop Sylvie. He's like, maybe we shouldn't do this because we're about to make the worst happen for our little bit of good. So to have a character like Renslayer, who they portrayed as the bad guy, only for them to be like, well, she was right. And then she's like, well, you know what? This is what you guys wanted. I'm going to go find my free will as basically the universe collapses.
Yeah, we'll wait to see where she goes.
So she was a little bit more complex than originally I gave her credit for, because I thought that once they revealed that she knew that they were all variants, it would have just, like, the buck stopped there. But there was more to her after that.
Yeah, I wrote about this on the website. I put that she kind of I said, unless something new gets revealed next week regarding her motivation and backstory, which a little bit did, the mindless, blind following of political ideologies echoes many of the thematic elements our country's been facing over the last year, especially with the change in administration. And she kind of represents, is it better to fight for what you've stood for all along and at what cost? Or like Mobius, is it better to alter one's belief and ideals to better shape them around the reality that exists, not the one we hope and strive for?
Well, I even make the dynamic similar to Tony Stark and Captain America in
Civil War. Yeah.
Like, Tony Stark, they were both right in some regard, and that's what makes it so interesting.
All right, real quick. Which one did you tend to side more with? Now, if you remember, Tony Stark was all about that we should be registered. Captain America says, no, we shouldn't be registered.
I think I was biased from the comics, because the comics are a little bit different in that regards. Like, the comics said that all those heroes, because there's no secret identities in Marvel, with a few exceptions. In the comic book Civil War, they all had to register with their name, social security number. Like, there was a database of, well, I have a secret identity. Not anymore, you don't. You have to be trained by us. You have to be regulated by us. There's a committee of people that oversights, and Captain America brings it up. He's like, what if we need to go somewhere, but because we're part of this governmental organization, they don't have jurisdiction, but we, so for me, I went in Team Cap, but I was definitely, I saw the Iron Man side, and I appreciated the Iron Man side.
Okay. And I might add that both of you are registered as technically lethal weapons.
That's an old wives' tale.
No, there's a certificate. You have a certificate. You have a number.
Look at the top of that certificate.
What does it say?
United Martial Arts Centers.
Right, you're registered with them as...
They're not a governmental organization.
So, my thoughts...
what do you... Ronnie,
I obviously, after watching The Boys, right? Perfect example.
Okay, good point.
They're season 1, right? Their whole thing is become part of the military, right? Become part of the government and everything.
Spoilers.
Yeah. Oh, well.
2 years ago, boys.
Yeah, right? And look at how that worked out. Because if you think about it, their whole thing was, well, if we're registered if we're government property, we have to wait for the government to tell us to go. But if we're not, we can get there quicker and faster and be able to save more people or save everyone.
But that's only if your ideology fits the ideology of the situation. Like, let's say you're the Punisher. The Punisher doesn't have that sense of thinking.
Black and white.
Yeah.
Pure black and white.
Yeah.
You're a criminal or you're not.
Yeah.
Right, he's got that thinking. So if he's coming into a situation, he's going to probably murder the bad guys instead of bringing them to justice. So shouldn't that be regulated?
Well, no, because if you think about it, even if you bring them to justice, what's going to happen to them after?
The problem.
That's not for us to say. That's for.
But
But what I'm saying is, what's going to be the outcome? If you have somebody that murdered multiple people, what's always the outcome if they're found guilty?
So are you suggesting then that someone like Judge Dredd should be more of what a superhero should be because he's judge, jury, and executioner?
Well, I'll even take a step back.
Okay.
And here's the way I see it. In America, we live in New York, for those of you guys who don't know. In New York, we have a set of laws and regulations for our state, right? Now, not even talking about on the federal level. So here's a perfect example. Tinted windows. In New York, it is completely illegal to have tinted windows. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. If your windows are tinted, technically you can get pulled over, you can get a ticket for it. If I buy my car in Connecticut and it's registered in Connecticut and I have a Connecticut driver's license, the second I drive into New York, I am subject to New York's laws and regulations. Now, we're talking about the Avengers. The Avengers who, up until the point of Civil War, only dealt with their own problems. Loki in New York. That was really their...
Right.
I don't want to say it's their fault, but Ultron was definitely their fault.
Yeah.
Yep.
But then it
wasn't their fault.
But then the
Tony
question
Stark's
came
fault.
up from Sokovia was, you were in another country doing what's illegal in yours. Like you're good in New York. We're fully supportive.
But
to go to another country,
world police kind of.
So basically, that was the problem that Avengers rolled up with, and it's a great parallel to the TVA.
Yeah.
Going back to the actual show Loki, it's a great, because they ask about the Avengers, they bring up the Avengers, and he's like, Loki's like, but they did it too. They time traveled.
Yeah.
Come on, which is a great scene. I'm glad they actually spoke about it, but like it was supposed to happen. It was part of the timeline. So for me, the TVA is definitely the even worse than the Avengers in terms of the ultimate abuse of power. Like to destroy an entire timeline.
Yeah.
Like all those people, and not even destroy it, feed it to their cloud monster. That was a horrifying ramification. That not only can you imagine, not only basically thinking you died, then appearing on this hellscape like Mad Max Fury Road type level, and you're like, oh my god, I'm still alive. I can make the best. Oh, cloud monster.
Yeah.
And then dying again.
All right.
Still
I know we got a little off track there. So
I'm trying to
going. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm trying to pull us back a little.
Going back, we were talking about our standout leads, and you're all saying Mobius.
Yes and no.
Okay.
I wanted to say Mobius, but I want to pick someone else because...
Right.
Well, you brought up Renslayer, and that's what
Renslayer.
put us
yeah.
down the rabbit
All right.
hole.
So you...
Sylvie.
Sylvie?
Sylvie, I thought she kind of has a character arc, but kind of not. Like, you see her...
She doesn't learn anything.
Yeah, because it's like, it looks like she is.
I think she learns it, but she just learns it after the fact.
No, because she doesn't see the ramifications.
No.
At the very, very end?
She just kills him and sits down.
Yeah.
And she
right.
finally...
I think she...
But she sits down and kind of breaks down.
Yeah,
because the one thing she's been trying to do for 30 years,
she's finally done.
Finally did. Like her life purpose is gone now.
I think that like when she kills, He Who Remains, it was all about like, oh my gosh, I did this and I thought I would feel something and I don't. I think I made a mistake. So I think there's growth in that.
I don't even think it's I made a mistake. It's what do I do now? Because
you think it's more of a loss of purpose,
an existential crisis.
Okay.
Because in all honesty, it's not like she killed him and then there was some big fanfare that shows what you did was wrong just now. It's not like Kang the Conqueror just suddenly appeared and is like, thank you, and then like we see the timeline splitting in the background, but she doesn't see that. She just sits down. Yeah. I think as much as I like Sylvie, and you do see moments of character growth with her arc overall, it's not there.
Right.
Yeah, no, I just liked her because it was a different character than we've really ever had. Yeah. Like, she's a quote unquote Loki, but she even says, I am not a Loki.
Don't call me that.
Don't call me that. I'm not Loki. I'm Sylvie. even though she's Lady Loki technically.
Enchantress.
Yeah.
Wow, she's never.
Well, she's a lot of. There's a lot of.
There is some crossover and melding there.
Yeah.
She's a variation of, or an adaptation of the character, the Enchantress from the comics. She was more of a Thor villain, but I definitely enjoyed her.
Yeah.
I also enjoyed. Ronnie brought up a great fact that she's not a Loki. She wasn't raised as one.
No.
She, maybe I don't know if they ever say how old she actually was when she got
they
taken.
don't.
I'd say like 8 or 9.
I was gonna say I think 8 or 9.
So like
Actually, I think
even
they
like
say.
even Kid Loki had a little bit more Loki-ness to him. But
I mean, he killed Thor.
he killed Thor.
So so Sylvie.
Sylvie
Okay.
was a definite standout. I love their chemistry.
Yes,
Together. Literally chemistry.
I would agree. Actually, I love. Don't get me wrong. I love Owen Wilson's Mobius, and
Yeah.
I think every scene he's in is just amazing. But yeah, Sylvie, like, wow, there's something about her that. Well, first of all, I wrote about this too. She looks very Doctor Who-ish. Which kind of plays into the role of the entire show with time travel and everything. But there was something about her that was very complex, very revenge driven, and that, like, there was one line in episode 6, and it was something, I think it was Loki said this. He says, you can't trust anyone, and I can't be trusted.
That's the
Yes.
last episode.
Like
yep.
that was very much like the unstoppable force meets the immovable object,
Yep.
kind of from Batman and Joker. But I just loved Sylvie because she was such a complex character, and I feel like I did see growth from her. My interpretation of that final scene though is that she's realizing she should have trusted him. And we time will tell us to see how exactly that plays out, because we don't know where Sylvie is in terms of the timeline of the MCU. Before I move on to my next question.
So I have a question for
Go
you
ahead.
guys.
All the above.
I know, right? A point of disappointment for me.
Okay, so why don't we get into that? What is something that disappointed us about the show?
Well, besides that, they never really address, because like Sylvie puts all these bombs that diverge the timelines.
Right.
Yeah.
They just kind of clean it up. I would have loved to see it. Like this
Yeah.
if ever there was a show for great Marvel cameos, no matter how obscure.
So you would have liked to have seen sort of the office work of the TVA.
A little bit, yeah. It's kind of
Yeah.
like how they're coming out with Gotham PD for HBO Max. I want to see like all the weird things that happen behind the scenes.
Going off to EO and trying to solve that issue. And
But my real disappointment was, so Loki and Sylvie have a moment where during this apocalypse they hold hands, right?
that
And
was on
Lamentus.
Lamentus.
yeah.
So it was such a powerful moment that the TVA was able to discover this Nexus event happening in a place that they shouldn't be able to discover a Nexus event. Because they established that. They established
Yeah.
if you go to an apocalypse where everything's about to end, no matter what, in every timeline, like a volcano
be
exploding, no matter what you do, nobody will know you're there. And that's where Sylvie's been
Right,
hiding.
hiding in the apocalypse.
So they go to Lamentus, and they have a moment that creates such a powerful Nexus event that they're able to detect them and save them. They made it seem like that was going to be a big part of the show. Even in the previously on for the last episode, they're like, you guys created this Nexus event so powerful, like blah, blah, blah. Then they don't do anything with it.
I have to agree
Yeah.
with you on this. That is actually one of my disappointments. I feel like there was setup for that, but no payoff.
Yeah.
I wanted, if He Who Remains, I'm going to call him Kang, by the way. That's his name. His name is Kang.
All right, from now on, we'll call him Ken.
Scratch that. Actually, his name is Nathaniel Richards. Just for those of you guys who don't know, a little Kang the Conqueror for you. Kang the Conqueror was a scientist from the 30th century.
Oh yes, 31st. Yes,
31st century, and he's more commonly known by his code name Kang the Conqueror. He is a descendant of Franklin Richards, or Reed Richards,
Yep.
Franklin Richards, Nathaniel Richards, and he's been a major villain in the comics for a long time.
And
A really great villain.
And I believe he has a romance with Renslayer in
Yes,
the comics.
in the comics he does.
He's directly tied with Eliath in the comics as well.
And
Yep.
he is going to be the main villain of Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Yes.
Right.
So I was looking forward to them. I didn't know they were going to introduce him in this. That was a pleasant surprise for
Yes,
me.
it really was.
Because I saw Jonathan Majors, I'm like, why does he? Because I of course I'm watching the show and I'm a comic nerd, so I'm dissecting every single thing that I can possibly find. So my biggest issue is Kang gives them basically two choices, and this show they should have taken some sort of third choice. They should have made their own destiny, which was the whole point of the show, and they should have done it with some sort of Nexus event. That's just me personally. I really just it just fell flat for me on that end because they put so much influence on this, and just for it to be like for Kang to be like, well, no, it's because I needed 2 of you to take over my job. That's my payoff.
Yeah, I agree with you.
You created such a powerful bond between these 2 characters just to.
That is one of my biggest disappointments, and the fact that we did not get a jet ski in the 6th episode.
That was a really big disappointment.
That was a big disappointment.
I wanted to see Mobius's.
I wanted to see him happy.
Yeah.
Well, it's even I have so many questions too,
and that's good.
Yeah,
because I noticed, like, I was reading an article today that was like, here are all the questions that were not answered in episode 6, and I think that's a good thing because it sets up for, because as we saw, the mid credits stinger on episode 6 was the reveal that season 2 is coming for Loki. It's the only renewed show on Disney Plus.
Every show has some sort of continuation, right? Wanda's going to be in the Multiverse of Madness, and I think now this show did open it up. Like, there's going to be an alternate universe where her kids are alive. I could see her trying to get them.
Mm-hmm.
Captain America is going to be in Captain America 4, which I'm fine with also. Yeah. I think Sam Wilson does deserve his own movie at this point.
Yes.
And then obviously this is going to lead to season 2.
Mm-hmm. All right. But so disappointment for you?
Just my parents.
Yeah. Honestly, most of the finale.
Really?
That's solid. That is a strong argument, sir.
Yeah.
Why?
So we were talking off air before, and if I did not know there was going to be a season 2,
I would have been pissed.
I would have flipped everything near me, to be honest with you. But knowing that there's a season 2, it makes it a little bit better. Yeah. But like we all said, like, you have all these questions that were not answered that could have and should have been answered in this finale or throughout it all. Just were not answered. You don't need 17 questions unanswered to save it for one season in like a year and a half, 2 years from now. So it was not that it was a bad episode.
Okay.
It's just it was a letdown. I was expecting most, if not all.
Frustrating.
Yeah.
I get that. All right. Next.
A disappointment for you, Rob.
Oh, I had said that
the jet ski.
Just the jet ski, and also that I felt like the Nexus event of them getting together should have played a bigger role in terms of plot development. That one, I was confused as to, because you were right. Even in the previously on Loki, they highlighted that, and I'm like, oh,
you guys did this thing.
Where's the payoff? I was very, very happy actually with episode 6. I was confused at times, not because of the information being delivered, but of like, where is this going, and how is this wrapping things up, and that it didn't wrap things up, and that it introduced Kang, and apparently now this is going to have huge ramifications on the MCU, because now the multiverse is just exploded. Like, there are memes now all over Twitter and the internet about what Doctor Strange's morning now looks like, where he's waking up and seeing all these branches off of the timeline. So that's kind of cool.
I'm worried. I'm worried that Marvel is not going to capitalize on it like they should. Say what you will about DC, but when they introduced the multiverse into their mainstream, especially with the Arrowverse shows, they really opened up brand new possibilities and just really good things. And whether or not Crisis on Infinite Earths really landed, I know we did an episode on it, and unfortunately it just there was a massive file corruption and just
I remember.
Yeah. And we enjoyed it enough that it was so different and so new.
That was cool.
Yeah. I'm really, like, after seeing Black Widow, I'm nervous, like, that they're not going to, because unfortunately also a lot of the actors that they could bring into it have really moved on. Chris Evans does not want to be Captain America again.
No, he wants to be Throg.
He wants to be Throg. Throg. Like, really, the only original Avenger that's really still gung-ho about doing anything is Chris Hemsworth. Like, he voiced Throg in this for 4 seconds.
Yeah, it is. Well, and I think, don't forget, we're in the throes of a new phase. And one thing I do like about this is that Kevin Feige said himself that, we are not... Well, first of all, he doesn't like the phases thing anymore, he said. He also said that he doesn't want it to be where Kang is now the Thanos of this phase.
Yeah.
It's not like that anymore. Like now this is all with them struggling with the multiverse being fractioned off, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
Because that's got, I think, an infinite number of possibilities.
I'd rather they focus on creating a new Avengers team.
I think they are, though, with the at the end of Black Widow. Don't forget,
Those are the Dark Avengers,
right? And I think that's where
I
think they don't want to repeat themselves by putting together another Avengers team.
I want a new Avengers team with Sam leading it.
Yeah.
I want Sam as Captain America. Not say what you will about Captain Marvel. We've had our thoughts about Captain Marvel, but I would love a team that Sam's leading of Avengers. You can have Sam, Captain Marvel, Spider-Man, War Machine, whoever else you want to throw in, Shang-Chi, depending on how he goes in the show or in his movie. If you want to do a Civil War 2, we'll get Avengers versus Dark Avengers. Cool, I'm down. We'll be in the theater. But for me, the Avengers are always the main and it's like the whole point of Spider-Man Far From Home. Like that's the story. Like, are the Avengers a thing? Are you the new Tony Stark? They haven't passed their mantle on yet, but they're expecting. They're doing all these solo movies. We don't sign up necessarily for the solo stuff.
Right.
We like the team up stuff. And I think they're afraid they're never going to get to Endgame again.
All right. So now let's look at some of our lesser-known characters here, and I want you to pick your favorite standout character, minor. And Gator Loki is too easy to go to, so you can't pick Gator Loki.
All right.
All right, so we've got, just to list
one.
it, Hunter B-15. We have Miss Minutes. Don't forget her. We have Casey, the desk office worker. You have Classic Loki. You have Kid Loki. You have Boastful Loki. You have
President Loki.
President Loki.
Yep.
So
you have 17 President Lokis.
You have Lady Sif.
you have that's right. Sif was in this. You also have, let's see, paperwork clerk, scanner clerk. He Who Remains. He was in there. Throg. So we'll go with Ronnie first.
I don't know. This is a tough one. It's either Hunter B-15 or Classic Loki.
Really?
Classic Loki really stole the show.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
All right, so let's go with
say
the harder of the two here with Hunter B-15. Why?
Why? I think because she was a quote unquote good soldier, right? These are my orders. This is what I'm gonna do. Then Sylvie shows her, like, listen, like, you're being played like this is where you are from, and it's almost like the Mobius thing, right? Mobius figures out, and then he's like, oh, maybe the TVA is wrong. And she comes, she's like, no, it's wrong, and she tries to side with them because she wants to figure out what's actually going on. Not that she necessarily agrees with Loki and Sylvie, but she's like, they're onto something, so let me see what they're onto. And then she obviously finds out that the timekeepers are not real. They're just robots,
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so I did like her little background story and everything.
All right.
Yes.
Oh, and then don't forget what's the Hunter from the beginning that first discovers Hunter C-20, I think it was.
C-20, C-90?
I felt so bad for her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Classic Loki. Richard E. Grant is just a hero of mine. I have loved him. And so, going back all the way for you listeners that know it, with Nail and I, he is just so great in so many things. And to see him in a dorky Loki costume, because he is a very he's achieved a lot in his life. He is a very accomplished thespian of stage and screen, and to see him screaming glorious purpose in the middle of that was just such a geek moment for me. I love Classic Loki. Paul?
I'm stuck between Classic Loki and I actually really liked He Who Remains.
Okay, let's talk about Jonathan Majors. Yeah.
I was, as soon as I realized who he was, like, it took me a second. I was like, why does he look so familiar? That's Jonathan Majors. Isn't he Kang?
Who is actually nominated for Lovecraft Country for an Emmy.
And
deservedly so. He's fantastic in it. It's not the best show, but he's great.
Yeah. He even says, he's like, there have been versions of me that have been so-and-so and Conquerors. And I was like, oh, he's Kang the Conqueror. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Why are they doing this to Kang the Conqueror? Then I realized he was a variant. Mm-hmm. He chewed the scenery with just such delight. Mm-hmm. And just to be one step ahead until he wasn't one step ahead. And just like he brings up so many just points about good and evil and the evil versus the evil that's worse that you don't know. Like, am I lying? I could be lying. You could stab me right now and nothing could happen, but this is what's gonna happen. Right. You stab me, infinite number of my variants are gonna appear, and some of them aren't too friendly. And you finally realize what the TVA was created for, why it exists, and why he justifies he's like, I'm saving existence. Like that's what I'm doing. I'm creating this one funnel so that people can exist. If there's a multiversal war, Multiverse Fan Cast, then everybody suffers, as opposed to letting people live their lives. And then I created this organization where I am pulling variants who have certain skill sets that are able to we find out that Renslayer is a principal. Who better to run a group of people than a principal?
A superintendent?
That's fair.
A vice principal.
Yeah, vice principal. But I really, when his scene, especially with the Lokis, and then just his glee, I want to see, though, if he's going to be Kang the Conqueror, I want to see him play Kang the Conqueror.
I'm very excited for that.
I want him to just appear with all of his gravitas and his poise. Oh, yeah. He's a very Doctor Doom-ish type character where he's just, well, I know this. Very just, I don't want to see him. This is a little goofy for me, and I'm afraid it's going to be very Mandarin with Travis Slattery.
Please no.
But he's only in the one scene, the one episode, basically, and just I really dug
I've seen him in a couple things. I saw him in what was it called? The last Black Man in San Francisco. He was fantastic in that. Which has garnered quite a lot of attention for that too. And he was in Lovecraft Country, and he's an actor of great gravitas and depth, so it'll be interesting to see. Yeah. All right, one of the last things I want to ask you guys is, and I'll answer first just so you know where I'm headed with this, one of the best aspects of this show that's not related to characters or actors. And here's mine. I loved the aesthetic of the show. I loved the look of it, and specifically the attention to detail of just the 1970s sort of brown workplace, browns and oranges in this. I thought every nook and cranny of this show was its own creative little world like nothing I'd seen before, even down to and the fact that this was a world that they were able to use all of the different cultural aspects that have been outdated, like ecto coolers, and different arcade games that went out of style and no one would notice missing because they're at the TVA. I love that. How do you say it?
Plobius,
I don't know.
Plobius, something along those lines.
I loved that attention to detail, and I thought that was just astounding. And I'll throw in the music. I've listened to the YouTube music. It's on YouTube, and you can listen to it, looped. And I've spent hours listening to it. It's just incredible. Ronnie.
I think I'd have to agree with the aesthetic of it. I mean, it's beautifully shot. It's well done. And there's no dull moment to it. There's I don't see anything wrong editing wise or anything. Everything seems to flow in a nice, smooth, consistent way throughout the entire 6 episodes that we have. And even though there is a lot of talking in comparison to the 2 other kind of shows we've had, it doesn't drag. Usually when you watch something that talks too much, it tends to drag. This was nice and fluid, and it worked very well.
Paul?
gonna be different. I hated the aesthetic.
Really? Why?
I was so used to Thor Ragnarok, bright colors
Okay.
and over the top synthesizer music and like all that stuff. Not to say that it's bad. It's just for me, it was jarring.
Well, I will say Ragnarok was very heavily influenced by Jack Kirby's
Oh yeah,
design.
no,
So
all the
I can
New God
understand
stuff.
that.
I could see all that aesthetic there. Even from Avengers, like you watch like what he teleports out of the Avengers world into the TV, and that's the point. It's supposed to be blah, mundane, and like very office workplace. But for me, the thing that stood out was the cinematography.
Oh.
They do a lot of great spinning shots because it's basically when you do a spinning shot,
So a lot of the camera work.
the camera work is fantastic because it's almost like its own storytelling device. It's when you're flipping, there's a lot of like circular camera motions where like the floor is upside down, like all that stuff. It's really to show how not at ease the characters are, without showing them like stumbling or just being uncomfortable. Like they're walking confidently, but the camera's spinning so that in your mind you know that they're not okay, but they're showing that they're okay.
So the
It's
director, that would be the director of photography.
Yeah, I think
doing
that stuff was really good. It really stood out to me. And then of course the costume design for some of the variant Lokis is really good. We talked about Richard Grant in his very classic Loki-esque costume. And then because Marvel played it safe for a long time with costumes, especially the X-Men franchise. They make fun of it viciously. Like they even make fun of it in the movie. You know. By the way, time of recording, 21 years ago, our X-Men came out.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
So they make fun of it. What would you prefer, yellow spandex? Like they make jokes about it, but it took a long time for comic book movie costumes to be faithfully adapted. So to see classic Loki, and even like WandaVision, we got her classic costume. Luke Cage, they did it. Jessica Jones, they did it. It's fun. It's tongue in cheek. It's it's enjoyable. I wanted to see a little bit more from Boastful Loki though.
He's going to be a Funko Pop head.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
They just announced that.
Well, he's got his own Mjolnir, and it's like a steampunk Mjolnir.
Yeah,
I was
it
like,
is.
that's a cool aesthetic. That's really an interesting idea. Oh, he's dead.
He's not dead.
He's not
just
dead, but
not
he's
part of the in crowd.
like I wanted to know more about that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So for me though, the camera work was always
that's
on
cool.
point,
Yeah.
and the sets were always really good. Lamentus looks great, and it looked because unfortunately, Guardians of the Galaxy really established what the aesthetic of the of the galaxy is. Thor Ragnarok showed what Sakaar looked like, but. And even in that, they make fun of it. Like Thor's like, look, these walls are hideous. Red, white, pick a color,
Yeah.
So for me, the previous Marvel movies have really set a tone for how the galaxy looks, and this just really stepped away from it. I was like, oh, all right, I got used to it, and I saw what they were trying to do. But for me, the camera work really stole it.
I'm gonna piggyback onto the costume thing.
Please,
real quick.
Get off me.
Because that's what I was gonna bring up after you were done, but you brought it up, so I'll just piggyback. I do like the costumes. Obviously, you have the different Lokis and everything.
This is fine Asgardian leather.
Yeah, right. But what I like about the costumes specifically is the TVA in general, right? They're all wearing the same thing for the most part, right? You go to an office nowadays, everyone's wearing something different. There's not one person that looks like another person when it comes to clothing. But this, because it's manufactured,
it's a government agency,
and it's a quote unquote government agent, right? Everyone is looking the same exact way, and I thought that was a nice little add-on into the costume of it.
Oh yeah. All right. So all right. Real quick, do you think this was the most creative out of the three?
Creative?
No. Creative how?
No.
I think WandaVision was the most creative. With the way they did each episode was like a different decade.
So we talked. I know, Rob, you brought up this is your favorite of the show. This is my least favorite.
Oh yeah.
I have trouble deciding which one I like more, WandaVision or Captain America or Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Right.
But I think I would lean towards Falcon and the Winter Soldier because there's just something so powerful for me for the mantle of Captain America and for that to be the show focus.
Well, I also know you identified with the character a little bit with
Sam,
a few of the characters.
With a few of the characters, absolutely. And that's always a big part for me, especially Sam Wilson, who at the end of the day is just a guy, just trying to do the right thing. And that's why he did deserve to be Captain America. Like that, just a great continuation of his character. And then like Ronnie said, WandaVision has some of the best creative stuff that they've ever done. And did it end on a little bit of a whimper? A little. It ended on setup, and that's Marvel's biggest problem.
It's always setting up for the next.
It's always setting up, and DC too. DC really struggled with it because then they tried to overdo it. Marvel learned really quick about overdoing it, especially with Iron Man 2. But Ronnie said it best. Like WandaVision definitely looked like each episode had its own unique
really
aesthetic and just its own unique. And we were constantly wondering what is going on with the show.
Not to mention each decade was because of a theme of the episode too.
Yeah. And like obviously WandaVision had a very big part about depression and just a superhero dealing with a very normal human feeling, but with superpowers.
I could get behind that. I still feel that Loki is more creative because it just created worlds that I'd never seen before, and just the whole idea of the TVA I thought was fairly unique. More importantly, it was the multiple Lokis and variants, but I could also understand the WandaVision that it was really not, even though you'd seen shows like that before, we've
never seen anything like that from Marvel.
Yeah.
And even like I know Ronnie and I are big fans of Legends of Tomorrow.
Yes.
Legends of Tomorrow kind of ruined Loki for us. At least for me. I don't want to speak for Ronnie, but like Legends of Tomorrow, variance was a phrase used in like season 2. Like each season they name like the thing they're going to be dealing with, and I think variance was one of them.
Yeah,
but
it was.
like season 2 or 3 was about fixing that's what it is, fixing the timeline. They're their own TV. They had a TVA in it, the Time Bureau.
Yeah, the Time Bureau. Yep.
So it's really hard for me to watch Loki and not compare it to Legends of Tomorrow.
So let's wrap it up then by giving our Star City rating. So Paul, why don't we go to you and tell us what would you rate this?
I'm gonna give it a strong 3, but a fight can be made for a 3.5. It is a well above average show. For those of you guys who aren't sure, 2.5 is an average property. It is something that I watched, I enjoyed. I'll never watch again.
See, the teacher in me says a 2.5 is 50 out of 100.
Yeah, I know. But that's
still failing.
That's failing in a school curriculum, but it is in the middle of the road, and in the middle is average. So you get out of here, mister.
So what's your
I give it a 3. I might do a rewatch and see if it raises it to a 3.5. Like there's some great stuff in it. Like, Loki as a character and watching emotional growth, and even like, Loki coming out of the closet in so many words.
Which is something we didn't even address. Yeah, that
because
this was
it doesn't need to be addressed.
Momentous in the fact that it's the first Marvel character to admit to
be
open about bisexuality.
And it's funny because in the show it's just a passing comment, but the internet exploded.
See,
Read
so
a book.
So many of us though I think already thought, well, like when it happened, we all were like, well, duh, of course.
Like, yeah.
But apparently a lot of the other world didn't. All right, so
I'm giving it a 3. I could be persuaded to a 3.5.
All right, Ronnie.
Yeah. I wish I knew what I scored the other ones. meaning Falcon Winter Soldier and WandaVision, because like I said, this is not at the bottom of the list for me. So hopefully I rank this higher than my bottom. But I would definitely give this
to rank things higher than your bottom.
Exactly. I want to say a 3.5.
Okay.
Argument could be made for a 4 because I think it was just very consistent. There wasn't. I mean, I guess you could argue. I want to say it was the 3rd episode was probably the weakest, if I'm remembering correctly.
You are remembering correctly.
Yeah.
And that was one that I initially, when the first time I saw it, I thought this one is really weak. And then I rewatched it, and I was like, okay, it's actually a lot stronger than I thought it was. But I could understand that. Yeah.
So all the other episodes, all the other 5 were like in the 4 area. So I would say 3.5 for this.
Okay.
I could be persuaded to a 4 if I watch it again.
I am right now sitting on a 4. I could even possibly go higher than that because I haven't rewatched the finale. Like I just watched the finale a couple hours ago, and I haven't had time for it to sit in.
I had 15 minutes before Ronnie showed up.
I really liked it. It was very Matrixy for me though. Matrix 2, if you remember from the Architect, which that kind of rubbed me a little bit the wrong way because
I'll still argue those movies. I love those movies.
Yeah, I have issues with 2 and 3, more 3 than anything.
98% of people do.
I've
so that's
never
fine.
seen one of those in its entirety.
Have you ever seen the first Matrix?
Not in its
What?
entirety.
Okay,
Wow.
take a deep breath.
All right, then we know what we're doing later.
I have a social life.
So,
Or had one back
but
then.
I would give it 4, and I could possibly go to 4.5 when I rewatch it. So I'll have to see. So you'll have to check out my review on the MisfitFaction.com of episode 6 to see what I ended up coming up with, because I'll be writing that in about a day or two.
That's also the reason I wanted to get us together to record this now while it was totally fresh. We didn't have time to marinate, and I want to see if it reflects in Rob's review, because he usually Saturday or Sunday he'll send that to us, and we'll have it on. Ronnie will have it on the website. For those of you guys who don't know, Ronnie moderates the entire website in his mild spare time, whereas I do the editing for the podcast and most of the social media stuff. But that's one of the biggest reasons I wanted to get together. Now we can chat, so that way it wasn't you wrote your review and then we chat and you're like, oh man, now I want to change my review. So a lot easier to change your review, to not have to change your review.
Yeah. All right. So that wraps up everything today on Loki. We'd love to hear what you think about Loki, so feel free to post when we post for our Facebook for our Facebook posts. Feel free to comment on what your thoughts are on it. Don't forget, again, you can listen to us on Podbeam, Spotify, Stitcher, Apple Podcast, and other listening stations. And you can also check us all out on the MisfitFaction.com. Did I forget anything?
You can also find us on YouTube at the Misfit Faction Media Network. You can find us on Twitter at the Misfit Faction and on Instagram at the Misfit Faction.
And feel free to read lots of content which has been posted on there on all episodes. I'll be taking a break for a couple weeks with writing unless I'm emotionally prompted to do something, but I'll be coming back with the What If episodes. I'll be writing weekly about that. So, as always, I'm Rob.
I'm Ronnie.
I'm Paul.
And we'll be back in a flash.
See ya.
Smorgasbord?